My name is Sarah Carell, and we are so excited to be able to be on this platform. Thank you to Denny Caballero producing this program for us. We are doing something called Wounds to Wisdom, Healing through Veteran and First Responder Narratives. And it's a labor of love of 29 protector authors sharing their stories to help other protectors who may be suffering in silence. So I will be featuring every author, all 29 of them, to come and share a little bit about themselves. So today I am so very honored to have Michael Pellegrino, who is a retired detective from the Ewing Police Department in New Jersey. And he is also the author of Crisis Equals Opportunity, Finding Growth and Resilience in Challenging Times. So, Michael, I'm thrilled to have you here. And I'd love to just get in it and hear. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, thank you, Sarah. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on here with you, and thank you to Denny. And it's an honor to be with these 29 authors, to be able to collaborate and be able to hear their stories just as much. I always like to say it's not about me; it's about we, and so we can do so much more with others, not having to work in silos, and just being able to be a bigger part of something, no matter what that something is. And for me, I'm going to take you back along a little journey. I did 25 years in law enforcement. The last 2 years, for a total of 27. I did the last 2 years as the Chief Resiliency Officer for a county here in New Jersey. We did have a serious issue with suicide in policing in New Jersey. So it was discovered and it was brought to the attention, and every law enforcement officer in New Jersey, from a mandate, had to go through a 16-hour resiliency program, in the state of New Jersey. And I was able to be one of those chief resiliency officers for one of the counties here in New Jersey. Then we had a little something called a pandemic hit. During that pandemic, we wanted to give people four things. We started a series of webcasts with all our subject matter experts, our docs from all over the country that we had met during this program, resiliency program. And we wanted to give people hope, positivity, a resiliency tool, and resources. And little did we know during those 34 webcasts that we were going to hit 76 countries in all 50 states. So that's when we knew we needed to do more. And as a result of that, Resilient Minds on the Frontlines was born. The curriculum with our subject matter experts and our docs was created, piloted, and now 3.5 years later, we are just getting into our first international country. So we're going international with this as well too, with this curriculum to help people. And we like to use the term catch themselves catching themselves before they hit that spiral, to be able to help themselves dig themselves out with some viable tools that they could use, and help themselves get out of that little whatever that turmoil is.
Thank you for sharing all that. I, have a good friend that went through your program and greatly benefited. He talks about you all the time, about the program. I know you're doing great work and you exude positivity and resilience. And I just appreciate so much what you are doing for law enforcement, for our protectors, which is the ripple effect into their families and the community. So it's exciting to hear just the good work that you're doing. I'm curious too, with how did you grow up wanting to be a police officer? How did all that start for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I always wanted to be a fireman. I really did from the time I was little. And then I became a police officer at the age of 18. I think I was 19 when I graduated the academy. And I always felt like I was a helper. And I go back to my early childhood in being able to help others, sometimes to the own detriment of myself, not being able to help myself. So for that, um, yeah, I wanted to be a fireman. I wanted to be a first responder, but just on the other side.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so you get into the police department, you have your role, and what is something that you loved about it? When you think about your time in the police department, what did you love about it the most?
I love people. I really do, and my faith takes me that way as well too, because I think that's really really important is to love people and to make sure that no matter what, you're always building them up and helping them no matter what. Because unfortunately, in this profession, people don't call you because they want you to come over for dinner. They call you because there's a problem in their life, and you have to go over there and handle that situation. Unfortunately, sometimes you see the worst of humanity and you see the best of humanity. And some of those things that you see, you can't unsee as well too. So it's unfortunate, that you have to see some of those things. And I like to call our minds like video recorders. They stop, they play, they rewind, they fast forward. They kind of fill in the blanks with a lot of things as well too. So for first responders, I can obviously see uh, yeah, I'm constantly working on myself, you know, at a constant level just to be able to make sure that I'm taking care of myself mentally and physically and spiritually. Because I think those three components are very, very important.
It's great. I'm sure that's, huge in your resiliency program and in your book. Before we go there, I'm really curious in the time. So I imagine you're somebody who loves people. Your heart is open, you're caring, you're trying to protect and serve. You're you're doing policing for the right reasons. Um, so I can't imagine the impact that that can make on a human being when you're seeing many people on their worst day. Um, when you think about some of the hard things that are happening in policing right now, whether whatever that could be, what comes up for you when you think about the things that you are concerned about, uh, perhaps who you're talking to as an author who is suffering in silence right now? What is your concern now for people who are policing or agencies? Um, what comes up for you when you're asked that?
One word is mental health. You have to have good mental health. When you have a good, stable foundation, that's going to give you the tools to be able to be a good police officer. We always, whatever that profession may be, we like to use the term life is coming to a theater near you if it's not at your doorstep already. So it seems like everybody is going through something, whatever that something may be. And we call those the big three. When your finances are in good order, when your relationships are in good order, and your health is in good order, you're probably going to be in good working order as a person. One of those things go a little bit awry, what happens? And really and truly, when you think about law enforcement and you think about first responders and you think about being away from your family and you think about um, all that kind of stuff, the one thing that we can't buy more of is time. So being able to have that time, and so if we have to work extra duty and all that other stuff, so events come up and things happen, so it comes down to being able to make sure that you have a good, healthy person, and that's a good working body, mind, and soul at that point, is to make sure that you're focused on what's important. And that's the task at hand when you're going out there to do that.
So mental health, really getting those three aspects together for a law enforcement officer to really protect himself from putting on his oxygen mask or her oxygen mask first, I would imagine. And I'm curious too. You know, our police officers are seeing so much, and there's um, now the high suicide rate. So obviously there's something being missed in that area of mental health. Can you share some examples of, like, if there's a suicide or a critical incident, or how does that impact the police agencies and the officers themselves?
Well, you have a lot of smaller departments, larger departments, so it affects departments a little bit differently, based on how many people are in that department. But more importantly, it doesn't that's just one aspect of it. When you have people suffering in silence, and we have so many people that are suffering in silence now, we want to make sure that we let them know that we are here for them. They may not want to talk at that point. They might not want to talk a week from now. They might not want to talk a month from now. But them knowing that you are there for them, and you are going to pick up that phone if somebody does call, I think that's the most important aspect of being our brother and sister's keeper, not only on the job but in life as well too. Is being there for that other person, and seeing some of the things that law enforcement and first responders see and hear, dispatchers, all that stuff. It's important to make sure that we're looking out for one another, and asking those questions. Hey, how you doing? And usually I like to say it usually comes in threes. Somebody will say, yeah, how you doing? "Oh, I'm doing fine." "Well, how you doing?" "I'm doing okay." And then the third time, it's like, you know what? How are you doing? How are you doing as a person? And then you kind of get that that pregnant pause type of thing, and you just can say, hey, listen, you may not want to talk about it now, but you know what? In the future, if you'd like to talk, have coffee, whatever it may be, and get that person talking, because there are so many resources, especially that we have in our wraparound resources, especially with Acadia Healthcare, who does a lot of our, does everything for us on the back end. We just, in our company, we work pre-boom, so pre-event. So giving people those skills pre-event, so that when they're going through those events, they come out on the other side in the post-traumatic growth side of things, and not the post-traumatic stress. So understanding, when you're going through an incident, the time is not to change your belief system as you're going through the incident. The time is to have those skills in place prior to, so that as you go through them, you can come out with like we like to say, a softer landing.
This makes so much sense. We have a lot of talks like that on the Power of Our Story. And, just about, gosh, how could we get this information to people so much earlier, like when they're a cadet, or to really prep them for being ready when that time comes. Do you find that,
When
do
life
you wish,
is at your front doorstep.
right, right. That's not the time, is it?
No,
Um,
no.
What do you feel like police officers could do more for each other. You did mention that asking them how they're doing 3 times, the third time you might be able to get some more connection and talking going. But is there something that you feel like could happen even in the culture of policing with, all the officers? What would it look like?
I always like to say, hey, people go to people they trust, and that's in business, that's in life, that's in anything. So when you build that rapport with somebody, when you have that connection with somebody, whether they like you, don't like you, whatever that is, if they trust you, they're going to come to you. And you being that go-to person, being that person that everybody knows that, hey, listen, I may not always agree with how he does things, but you know what? He's always got the best interest of the situation, whatever that may be. And on the forefront right now is mental health, because without a good human, it doesn't matter uh, what kind of computers, guns, ammunition, anything like that. If you don't have a good person operating behind that technology, and the technology that we have now is second to none. I mean, it is absolutely incredible, the things that are going on, in this whole world of technology. But more importantly, is to have that interpersonal connection with somebody, is to make that connection so that you can either recognize something that they are suffering or how you might be able to help them. Like I said, it may not be right then and there, but it may come a month, 2 months, a year later, whatever that is. Hey, listen, I need to talk to you, however that looks. But being able to be there for that person, I think no matter who they are, no matter what they believe or anything like that, is the human portion of this whole thing.
I appreciate that you brought that up, because I know that has been brought up with some other authors too, that even though, and I think this was in the fire arena, that there's more suicides than people dying on the job, just like veterans, just like law enforcement. Why do we put so much more money into better equipment versus better mental health care? And that's why it's
That's a
wonderful, like
great
what you're
question.
doing. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I wish I had the answer to that question. I always like to say, a healthy employee is a productive employee. When you have those three things working for you, your health, your relationships, and your finances, if those three things are in good working order, uh, we spend so much time working on the physical part of our body. We go to the gym and work from the neck down. We work out all the time. How many times do we go to the gym and work from the neck up? And what is the most important part of our body? It's being able to control what's between our ears, and being able to control not only some of the things that we see, but some of the fears that we go through and the anxieties that we go through. So, I like to say, and we've had this conversation with many different organizations, agencies, companies. When you have a productive employee, when your employee is feeling mentally well, physically well, and everything, they're going to be a better mother, brother, aunt, uncle, sister, those things. And then they're going to be a better employee. So
yeah.
we've had this conversation with insurance companies and a lot of different people to say, hey, listen, why not work in the pre-boom of life, so that when things happen, which they are going to happen, no matter how hard we try, if we're living, they're going to happen, whether it's death, whether it's sickness, whether it's finances, whether it's a loss of a job. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. That life is going to come to a theater near you. When you're
Yeah.
going through that, it's important to have those tools in place, those belief systems in place, so that as you're going through that, you come out on the other side, on the growth side of things. I always like to say you're not winning and losing in life. You're living and you're learning. And if you're not living and you're not learning, then unfortunately, what's going to happen? How are you going to get to that next level? Being the victim. We have so many people that play that victim role. Being the victor in life is going to get you to that next level. Being able to change that mindset, being able to change that lens. So we have done a lot of work with big organizations, big companies, to try to change that thought process and putting, not all their money, but some of their money behind their employees and their mental health, because that's only going to benefit them in a higher, what we call ROI in the business sense, but an ROR for your return on your relationships with your people as well, too.
Yeah. Beautiful, so proactive and so human. And I love that you're focusing on taking care of the people, and then everybody benefits from that. So, can you share a story, a success story, or somebody who went through Resilient Minds and just really came out so much better?
Uh, I like to say we have a bunch of them, but the one that I'll really share is we had one of our top execs that went through, and he came out on the other side. Um, every day was a learning. Every day he is doing things that he's living outside his comfort zone. I mean, and I'll use him as an example. This is a guy that would never even, his whole life was work, 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 work. He'd done well. He worked harder, and now he's taking piano lessons. Now he's taking dancing lessons. Now he's doing things that he would never even imagine that he would be doing if he didn't go through what he went through on the one side, because his everything was focused on work for him. And he would even say it himself, and I love this term. He would say, I was an organizational terrorist at one time. And if there was something that came down, or, a new mandate or whatever it was like, a 3-page memo on why this isn't going to work, instead of, obviously looking at seeing how it could come out on the other side. And I'm so proud of him. I really am, because obviously, he does talk about it. So it's not something that I'm saying that anything out of turn, but it's our CEO, Rob Sepiel, and I'm so
Wow.
proud of where he has come from and where he's gone. Because if you had said this was the picture of resilience when he first became the first state chiefs, first state chief resiliency officer, he was definitely not. Then, as things progress and as things you learn and you go through this journey, he's come out on the other side so much better. And I'll
That's
say,
great.
even for myself, I'm on a constant journey, and we all are on a constant journey. Our whole team, we like to say that we're one big family at Resilient Minds. Every one of our facilitators, our exec staff, and everything like that, because we really want to make sure that we take care of each other. And again, this is not possible without we. So that I love sharing that story, and he shares that story as well. So I'm proud of him.
I appreciate you sharing that. I just, even knowing you, Michael, and knowing, our friend that went through your program and hearing this story, it's great just to see this modeled like this is what can happen for our agencies and our law enforcement, that they can be trained to have these tools to really live a full life, even with such an incredibly hard job. And it's just, it's
Yeah.
great. Now, if you, just to help those that may be watching and are suffering in silence, and they just need a little bit of courage to make that first step forward, what can they do? Like that very first step of courage, what can they do today?
First of all, I like to say anger and joy cannot live in the same headspace. So just find something you're grateful for, no matter what it is. The smallest thing, it could be a bird chirping, it could be anything. And once you find that gratitude, send somebody a little note. We call them RACs. We call them random act of kindness, RAKs. Being able to do that, because now what you're doing is you're switching from the negative to the positive. It's that little bit of a switch right there. And then I believe the next tool that I think is probably one of the most important ones is to breathe, is to be able to take that deep breath in, hold that breath, take that deep breath out, hold that breath for 4 seconds. I mean, everyone, that's proven, that's brain science, that's making sure that we're resetting the brain so that we can get back into the prefrontal cortex rather than thinking, in the lizard and the puppy brain. So, just doing them two small things, being able to reset the brain, get back into the prefrontal cortex. And I'll say this to anybody, and I will, and I'll stand by this. My phone is on 24/7, just like I know this whole group's phone's on. And just make that call, no matter how small or how minute. If you're going through something, don't go through it alone, because sometimes what we do is we catastrophize. We think of the worst when things will get better. No matter how hard we're going through, no matter what we're going through, things will get just a little bit easier. Every day that sun will come up and that light will come on. And as long as we can think of that, we can get ourselves out of that little bit of hole, that little hole, and be able to recognize that, catch ourselves catching ourselves. That's the first and foremost thing. Because when you catch yourself catching yourself, you are recognizing it first. And then what you're doing is you're able to use one of the tools that I just spoke about to be able to kind of reset and get back into that prefrontal cortex, where you get into your logic part of your brain, your thinking part of your brain, and make that phone call to somebody to find out what can I do for next steps. We have a ton of resources. I know that there's so many resources out there, and I just don't want anybody. If there was one thing that I can instill in anybody, is never suffer in silence, because it's just, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't. You can do so much more, and it just could be just a quick phone call.
Can you share again then your organization's name and how to connect with you there?
Absolutely. Our company's name is Resilient Minds on the Frontlines, and what we are is we do a lot of resiliency training. We do chaplains training. We do leadership training. We do a lot of that stuff, financial literacy training, leadership, that type of thing. So the best way to get a hold of me is email. M, my first initial, my last name, Pellegrino, Pellegrino at resilientminds.us. That's M Pellegrino at resilientminds.us. And I think that's the most important thing right now, is to make sure, I don't care who you are, what you do, no matter what, there's no one that should have to suffer in silence. And I know that our mind is the most powerful tool we have. So we need to be able to control it. And we have so many resources to help people to control it. And that's the message. I mean, if there's anything, I beg of you, I never want for anybody to suffer like that.
What a pleasure to talk to you, Michael. I'm so grateful that you are one of the authors in our book because your story is powerful. Your heart and being so proactive in helping our protectors heal and be resilient is so powerful. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.